to the 2014 Football Award Ceremony. Before we get started, I would like to introduce my fellow officers, Alicia Murphy, Jeanette Triano, Betsy Weaver, and Jess Ziegler. I would like to thank all the coaches for endless hours to make the boys stronger and better as a team. You are truly committed and dedicated to your players. I would also like to thank all the players for the time and dedication. We are all proud of you. There are so many behind-the-scenes people that I need to thank, and if I forget anyone, I sincerely apologize. To the parents who cut, pre-fried, cooked fries during the games, organized fundraisers, baked, set up, and served the foods at Thursday dinners, everyone who organized and worked at game day stands, I thank you all. We could not have been successful without you. And I can't forget Kristen Melnick for always giving her time to open up the cafeteria for the Thursday night dinners, for the two-a-day lunches. Without her, we could never accomplish that. With that being said, we had a very successful year as a booster organization, which allowed us to do so many things for the players. We can always use more parent involvement, so I ask anyone who is not involved, please get involved, because it's a great organization to be a part of. We learn as we go along, so nothing is set in stone. Our next meeting is February 13th at 6:30 in the high school. Please come join us and see what we're all about. Our meetings are usually the second Thursday of every month, for those of you that don't know. Before I turn this over to the coach, I just want to tell everyone that we'll have light refreshments and food available when this is over. And unfortunately, we have some medium-sized jackets that did not come in. They are on back order, so if you requested medium jackets for your players, there are some that are not going to receive one tonight, and I'm very sorry for that. But once they come in, we'll give them to Kathy Miarelli, and she will come, you can go down to her office and get them. And now I'd like to turn it over to Coach Vaughn.
First, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Obviously, a lot of the stuff that Patty said, we couldn't accomplish what we accomplished throughout the year without the boosters. And obviously, there's a lot of parents that have helped out. I played 4 years of college football in East Stroudsburg. I think I walked away with like 3 pairs of socks, a t-shirt, and I still have a practice jersey. These guys get more in one day than a lot of people get in 4 years of playing college as well as high school. So I hope everyone out there appreciates it, and I'm sure they do. Most of them. Pretty much all. So like I said, I hope we continue to have success as a booster club, and that as a team that we continue to show the appreciation that the boosters deserve to get. And that also goes with all the parents that have helped out throughout the course of the year. We're going to get into our varsity after we start out with our junior high. I'd like to introduce my 2 junior high coaches to start out. Coach Murphy, Coach Knobloch, please come on up. Woo! I'd like to remind Coach Knobloch that it is a school night and we'd like to get out of here by midnight.
Yes, please.
Thanks. Thanks. I got work tonight. Hey, thanks for coming, everybody. And, it's Super Bowl weekend. It's football weekend. Unfortunately, the Eagles aren't part of that. First of all, the first person I'd like to thank is Jeanette Triano, my team mom, go-to person to let everybody know what's going on. Jeanette? The whole booster First of all, Braden, my manager, Braden Tamaqua. And you come up, please everybody stay up on deck here, all right? Seventh grader, Billy Shilko. Billy Shilko with us tonight? Billy's not with us here. Billy did a great job, offensively and defense. We got Brady Moore. Brady Moore here, right? Brady Moore. Outstanding job at the tight end spot this year. First year player. Big Bubba. Yes, Bubba's on the team. Little Bubba and Big Bubba. Great job, offensive line and part-time center. Outstanding job. Got Devin Zahner. Devin Zahner with us tonight. He's not here. Devin and Nate. And we got James Benners. Stump. Part-time safety. Next we have John McCallum. John McCallum is tonight. Jonathan Dannenfeld. Jonathan Dannenfeld. To get bigger and stronger for next year. Khalid Holland. Khalid with us, yes. Khalid did an outstanding job on the defensive end of the ball. Hope to see him get bigger. And when you see Jordan Smith standing up there, that's how big Jordan is. Luke Madiak. Luke with us tonight. No Luke. Mike Benetsky. Mike Benetsky. That's Luke. Mike Smith. Michael Smith. Look to get bigger and stronger also. Billy Frederick. Billy with us? Zach Panna. Matt Amadeo. Now, if anybody doesn't know, Matt's the first non-Tamaqua full-time student that we ever had to play football, and it was a little challenge to get him on board. But what an outstanding job and player he is and going to be. Thank you.
Stole from the little place.
Stole from the little place. Last seventh grader is Nick Briner, and Nick Briner is probably one of the best football players that are going to come out of this school as long as he stays healthy. Eighth graders, we have cameraman Kovic here. Cam, come on up. He gets in that weight room, he's going to be fine. Toe Mater, Brandon Mater. Little Kovic. Pound per pound, one of the toughest kids we got, trust me. And did a good job on both sides of the ball. Striping, we got striping. Striping. Darren Miller. Scored our first play from scrimmage, an 80-yard touchdown. And did a great job on both sides of the ball. Jake Palmer. Just had to put up with a bum leg the whole season. Hopefully gets that hamstring taken care of. Jake Triano. Jake's there. Everybody knows everything about football. If your quarterback needs that offensive person on the line to be quarterback of the line. The linemen aren't really the sharpest tools in the shed. But Jake took care of that for me. Offensively, he's the quarterback on the line. Great job. Jake Triano. Jordan Smith, is he with us? No Jordan. Mitch Kirk. No Mitchell. Steve Muslim. Muslim. Ricky Evans. Hope Check. Ricky did a good job, both sides. Offensively and defensively, a little bit on offense, mostly on defense. Good job. Thaddeus Zuber. I'd say the best quarterback in the county in the junior high level. And coach is worried he's going to come out with football. Well, I got a contract signed. So he's going to be with us for a long time. And last is Trace Harmon. Totally dedicated. Total dedication. He loves the sport of football. He's all football. He's only going to get bigger and better. So now there's a lot of firsts all the time. Every year is a first. First female. Like I said, this year we got the first kid in cyber school type thing. This year we even have a first. We're putting plaques out for junior high level. And we have three plaques. We got the outstanding offensive, outstanding defensive, and then the most improved. And first of all, which is a no-brainer, our offensive player goes to Thaddeus Zuber. I'm looking for bright things to come with Thaddeus. Quality student, best offensive player, could have been best defensive player. Like, you can't say too much about it. First year, never had a helmet on, but actually everybody knows Thaddeus is a team leader in any sport he plays in. He's going to be a triple sport athlete throughout the course of his career at Tamaqua. And he's going to be an asset to some college whenever the time comes. Thad, thank you for finally trying on. Defensive player goes to Trace Harmon. He would definitely get the 3D award. He is definitely dedicated to this football sport. And Trace, keep up the good work. Definitely a team leader. Look to see you on a Friday. So now that lets the last one is the most improved player. And trust me, the story goes back 2 years from Little League season when a father comes up to me and says, hey, Nichols, you know, like, I'm going to let Dare Miller, they're the recipient. Outstanding. I'm going to let Dare Miller. He's not the biggest, but, you know, I don't want him to get killed, but I'd really like to see him in a uniform. I said, don't worry about it. And I'll tell you, first year, he definitely did not go to Walmart. Everybody knows that. Joe Coleman. But he came about, and he really came of age in the second half of the season. He really came of age. And anybody watched him in the Myersville game? You're talking, if he would have caught the interception in the Myersville game, he would have had 4 consecutive games with interceptions. He had touchdowns. He had safety blitz fumbles. He did it all. And he just has to get bigger and stronger. He's got it going in the right direction. And you guys that are in 7th grade, if you would have seen the size of Dare Miller 2 years ago and how he played, you would never imagine. do something good, well, trust me, he's watching. And I'll tell you right now, Howie was at every one of our practices while he was alive, and he's a dedicated fan of Tamaqua sports. And he could be no prouder. His grandson right now is grown as a football player. So that's our 2013 7th and 8th grade team. Only a 3-7 season, but trust me, look at these guys, you look at them 10th graders that were on Friday night. A couple of these guys in 10th grade are going to be out there doing some damage on Friday night. And that's when I get my happiness and go home, crack open the beer and say,
I'd like to just address the junior high. I say it every year. Most important thing with those young guys is that you stick together and that you realize that, you know, football is a year-round sport for us. It's a sport that you're always part of a football team. That being said, doesn't mean anything about you playing another sport. We encourage you to play another sport, but always realize that, you know, we're in the weight room, you know, we're always together throughout the course of the year. We encourage you to stay tight, and like I said, we have some very good numbers in our 7th and 8th grade program. We want to keep these guys together. You know, don't worry about records in the junior high. You know, our goal is to get you better by the time you're, you know, juniors and seniors, and believe me, that stuff turns around fast when you work. We're going to start out by introducing our freshman class. I like going from freshmen to seniors since this is pretty much the last chance we get a chance to honor our seniors. Joe's going to be handing out the sweatshirts to us. So when you come up here, freshmen, stand by Coach Joe and just get a line straight down. Once we introduce your class, we'll dismiss you and you go back to your seats. Freshmen, first, Josh Gordon. Michael Housen. Adam Tamaqua. Devin Mortar. Auditorium. Tyler Mortar. Go. Nick Sadusky. No, Nick Sadusky. I gotta talk to these freshmen. Chance Sabo. Graham Gabler. Jake Vincent. Zeke Russell. Basketball. Chad Weaver. Matt Weaver. And Dylan Woods. about half our freshman class. Sophomores, Big Tyler Andrews. Matthew Belder. Nick Deto Clemson. No basketball in August. Dylan Dannenfelder. Shane Hacker. Tanner Ham. Jake Marcola. Jake Martinez. Zach Miranda. Colin Moore. Kyle Oliphant. Aaron Rega. Trevor Schilling. CJ Smith. Norman Thomas. Get away from the tank caps. Missed a week, and then football season, I think he swallowed 10 cap. That's from the cap. And last but not least, Connor the Tooth Miller. Connor a little bit of a shot in the inside practice. He was being interviewed at the time. I saw a tooth fly across the camera. That was Connor's. And that's our sophomore class. Junior class, Dylan Back. Nathan Costanzi. Jake Hughes. Devin Murphy. Tyler Esch. Ernie Shoko. Tyler Swimco. Trevor Swimco. That's our junior class. Senior class. There's something before, we're going to be doing a lot of awards. A lot of our seniors have gotten awards. Big thing I like to say about our senior class. At the beginning of the year, obviously coming off a 10-0 season, winning a title for the Anthracite League, expectations are very high going into the season, after the 10-0 season. Unfortunately, we had some issues at the beginning of the season with injuries, obviously well known. Mr. Vandermartin had an injury, Tyler Hope had an injury, and two big parts of our offense and defense to start out. The guys that stepped up in the senior class, I think it was pretty amazing the fact that we stayed competitive with everything that was going on to start out. They did a great job. I got a little upset. I was at Redner's about a week ago, and someone goes to me, a guy that probably never really played the sport, but he's like, "Hey, tough year, what happened? I think tough year, 7-3, coming off a big season, going 7-3, winning their last 4 games, beating 3-4 playoff teams in their last 5. I don't find that as being a tough season. It was a pleasure to coach these guys. It was one of those seasons where I thought, it could have went easily into a 3-7 season unless the seniors stepped it up and did what they had to do to make up for some of those injuries. I think these guys showed great character throughout the year, and obviously it showed. By the end of the year, I think, in my mind, there was no doubt we're probably the best football team in the Anthracite League. And if we did have the opportunity to go on, I think we could have made some noise. And that says a lot about the character of the senior class. One thing I took positive about, being a comment like that, at that point now where, it's expected that we're going to be Jake Kunkel. Matt Matuzak. Austin Mirelli. Tim Stahl. Dylan Van Busker. Dustin Vandermark. Connor Vegas. Jack Sakai. I always overlook it, but it's tough because they put up with a lot of stuff. They work they work for the team, and they pretty much put up with me yelling at them on the sidelines throughout the course of the year. I'd like to introduce our managers, starting with our 2 senior managers, Jess Thomas. Carly Fenstermarker. Taylor Fritz. And Allison Amadeo. And again, if you look at what the boosters do for these, not just for the underclassmen, obviously for the seniors, beautiful ball that they'll have for the rest of their life, as well as beautiful sweatshirts. I think, again, it's amazing what these guys get through the course of the year, and that goes out to our boosters and our parents. Thank you. our senior class, seniors. Before I go into the awards, obviously, you can't have success unless you have great assistant coaches. As everybody knows, we have assistant coaches that don't just show up in August, that are in the weight room right now. Not too many places you go. I'm coming from Northern Iowa, had a great program, but this time of year we never had 5, 6 coaches in the weight room. We have that. That says something about our coaching staff and the dedication and what they do for the young guys. Just really fast, they can just put their hands up. Varsity coaches, we got Coach Mike Bonner, Coach Clarence Zapolsky, Coach Steve Mountain, Coach Patrick Blackjack, Coach Tyler Dunkel, and volunteer Coach Tommy Bonner. And that's I guess it's award time now. Starting with awards, our first award that we're going to be handing out tonight is our Outstanding Defensive Line Award. This award's going to go to, he's been pretty much a 3-year starter for us. He's been playing varsity football since he's a freshman. What I can say about him, it's 100% all the time. He led the team in sacks, led the defensive line in tackles for losses. What I like most about this young man is that we have him back for another year next year, and like I said, we're looking forward to seeing what he can do next year. Defensive lineman of the year, Tyler Stricko. You want to say anything? Tyler, you want to say anything? Okay. As well, he's won a few, he made a number of all-conference teams. Andrew Sight, he made second team. I think he was honorable mention at the time. Lewis, he was mentioned. There's so many all-star teams anymore. It's tough to keep track of who makes what. But I know Tyler was a part of a lot of them. Next, linebacker. You can say a lot of the same stuff for this guy. He led the team in tackles. For losses. No doubt, he's a defensive leader, and actually started becoming, what we emphasized earlier in the year, he felt like we needed more emotion in the locker room. He started doing that. And you're screaming at the Allentown game, screaming going on in there, and we're all looking at each other like, who the heck's that? We went in, and this was the young man that was doing the screaming. And that pumps me up, that pumps the coaches up, and I'm sure it's going to get even more so as he becomes a senior this next year. Again, just like his brother, they're always trying to outdo each other. I think Trevor goes 101%, Tyler maybe only 100. So, winner of the linebacker award, Trevor Stricko. I'm only getting time. One thing I had to say too, you hate to make excuses, but with injuries, we had a lot of guys, not only guys that are off the field, guys like Trevor, guys like Bud, they played through injuries at the beginning of the year. May not have been 100%, but they toughed it out, and they actually kept us in a lot of games, put us in a situation where we could end up 7-3. Next award, one of the smartest players in the secondary that I've coached. Great kid, very coachable. He improved throughout the year. He had some rough spots at the beginning of the year. Started getting picked on a little bit as the season went on. He stepped up to the challenge. As well as being named our defensive back of the year, he's also going to be our scholar athlete. He's ranked 17th in his class. I'm sure he's going to have a lot of success to come, in anything that he decides to do. Our defensive back of the year is Mike Keller. Offense. Going after our offensive awards. Offensive line. One of the hardest working kids in the weight room, no doubt. throughout. He motivated kids in the weight room, and he put up some huge numbers. Squatting over 600 pounds, worked hard to get where he was at. As a freshman, I wasn't sure if he was going to be around that long because, it's a hard physical sport. And, he's definitely stepped up to the challenge each and every year. He was a 2-year starter. He was a big part of our success both years. One of the biggest things, he got a compliment from the Schuylkill Haven coach. I was very impressed the way, he was able to move and get into a good, legitimate stance where a lot of guys his size can't do that. And once you get a compliment from Coach Farr from Schuylkill Haven, you must be doing something right. He was also, team leader on the field, and he just loved the game of football. Our offensive lineman of the year is Cody Hauser. Next award is our receiver award. When you average 30 yards per catch, 20 yards a run, and you do that for 2 years, that's pretty impressive. The young man, he worked his tail off in the off season, put on about 30 pounds of muscle. The sad part of that story is that unfortunately, he only had about 2.5 games to show what he had. But in 2.5 games, he ended up making a number of all-conference teams, all league teams. If you do something like that in 2.5 games, it's pretty impressive. A number of college coaches very impressed with the way he conducted himself and as an athlete as he did at camp. I keep on trying to encourage him. I know he had a rough year. I feel that he can definitely go on, play at the next level. But again, it's something that you got to decide to do for yourself, and you decide what's best for yourself. Again, the kid just had a great year for us. I would have loved to see what he could have done if he was on the field the whole year. And that young man is Dustin Vandermark. It only took a rock star and a coffee every once in a while to get into those 6 o'clock workouts, but he still made it. Should have been drinking milk. Just teasing. Offensive back of the year. Again, the guy that really turned it on at the end of the year. Big part of our success. Winning 4 of our last 5 games. Beating a team like Schuylkill Haven, who went on to win a district championship. They make it to the second round of states, and we didn't just beat him. Thanks to this young man, we pretty much laid one on him up at Schuylkill Haven's football field. He's pretty much a big first team on every all-star team that was in the area. And he was actually at times News back of the year. Doing this all in 5 games as well as rushing for 1,200 yards, averaging nearly 10 yards per carry for 2 years in a row. Very impressive. And one of the big highlights I think for his year was the Schuylkill Haven game where he ran for I think about 350 yards and broke his uncle Jimmy's record. It was great to see him do it, especially after the rough start he had. Offensive back of the year, Todd Hope. We've been giving this award out for a little while now. It goes to basically a person who's very well academically, very dedicated to the sport of football, and as well as his classwork. Unfortunately, Mrs. Butterworth is here tonight. Well, not unfortunately that you're here tonight, Mrs. Butterworth. Unfortunately, she lost her husband this year, Rudy, who was a great supporter for the program. And I know, he always loved the kids at Tamaqua. And this is actually named in his son's honor. It's the Tom Butterworth Award. We hand out sheets every year. I'm sure they're available in the program. You get a chance to read that, make sure you read it. One thing I want to say about some of the awards that were given out, the Butterworth Award, our Anama Award, our Triple D Award. When you win this award, you're representing a young man who a young man or young men who, were very proud to play Tamaqua football. Parents are very proud of them. And I know in the past we've had some great guys win these awards. I think you got to realize what an honor it is to win an award that's named after someone that loves this program that much. And that goes for all those awards that were given out. Sometimes I wish I could say more. I wish I knew more personally about the people that we name these awards after. But just by seeing their parents or spouses, I realize how much it means to them. And I hopefully, and I'm sure you do, the kids that win these awards, make sure you set time aside. You tell them how much you appreciate it. And we've never had a problem in the past with that. And these guys have been great, and I'm sure it's going to continue because we have some great seniors that win these awards this year. Like I mentioned before, the Butterworth Award, he's a 2-year starter, one of the hardest working linemen I think that we ever had. He's one of those guys that was undersized, but made up for it in hard work. Great student athlete. He never made excuses when something went wrong, and he always worked to get better. I think Nancy and Rudy would be very proud to have this guy win the award, and that winner is Nick Cochio. Our next award is our Sportsmanship Award. This goes to a 4-year player. I think this year was one of our closest ever races we had for one of our bigger awards, the Triple D Award, and he just came up a few votes short. What I think it says about this young man, he's not somebody that's an all-conference player. He's a 1-year starter for us that worked his tail off to get to where he was at. I don't know if I've ever met a young man that just loved the sport of football this much. And that's saying something, considering that he's one of those guys that he said he had to work his tail off to get on the field this year. And for the 3 years prior to that, he busted his tail and didn't get the opportunity. Also, another young man who had a tough loss this year, his father passed away. His father, I'm sure is very proud of him, up where he's at, and was always very proud of him. And I'm honored to have our Sportsmanship Award this year go to Austin Miorelli. Our next award, and this is the first year for this award. It's named in honor of Francis Emanama, who was a real good football player for Tamaqua. I'm sorry, what was the date? This isn't on? 77. He played football in 77 for Tamaqua. He was a good running back. Like I said, another guy, him and his family, I got a chance to talk to Kathy before the ceremony. Again, she's honored to have the plaque in his name, which is, very honored to have, a young man be put on that plaque. He'd be ecstatic, like she said, he'd be ecstatic to see, a young man get an award in his name. Very deserving. This guy, unfortunately, sometimes he wasn't the guy that was injured, but the injuries affected sometimes, I think, his numbers. I don't think I've coached a better quarterback, since I've been involved with the sport. And we had some good ones back in Orleans, as well as here. He's a guy that, he was a mainstay for us throughout the course of the year. When things were going bad, he never complained. He realized, I think, unfortunately, we had about 11, 12 drops in the Jim Thorpe game. You can see that he was frustrated, but he never let it get to him. Came back and he performed throughout the year. He did it 2 years in a row. He probably would have been a 4-year starter for us. He took over as a freshman, made some big plays, won 2 out of his last 3 games as a freshman. We were struggling with 1 win. As a sophomore, he had a bad back. Unfortunately, wasn't able to play, or else he'd probably have pretty much every quarterback record there is they have at Tamaqua. However, he did end up having a single-season touchdown record last year, and he ended up having the career touchdown record, which he got this year. Gonna miss the guy. Like I said, he's one of those guys I enjoy talking to the sidelines because we think he put him on defense too much. And the winner of that is Nate Edmonds. I went down the checklist of the checks. He covered every check. I gave him a little hint that he may be getting this one. I was going over it, and he even told me that he covered everyone. So we knew he was, he was meant to get this award. He's a modest guy. Our last award of the night is our Triple D award. Pretty much everybody has met Joe throughout the course of the 4 years playing for us. They know that Joe, is madly proud of his son. His son was a great football player for Tamaqua, loved the sport. Joe, he's a guy, he doesn't miss a game. He'll tell me what plays I should have run every Monday when he comes in. I don't agree with him all the time, but I said, he loves the sport. This year is probably one of our tightest races for the Triple D award. The young man that's going to receive this award, he's already been up here once. He came off, a broken back. That's an injury where, unless you really want to be here and play that sport, you're not playing the year that you find out you have a broken back. He ended up not only being pretty much named the best running back in our league, but he also ended up winning the MVP in the All-Star game. It was kind of fitting. He played about 6 plays in the All-Star game, got the MVP. I think in 6 plays, pretty much everyone realized that he was a special talent there. Had our 1 touchdown in the All-Star game. Actually mentioned to him at halftime, thinking, I wish you could play more. I wanted to get you the MVP. He ended up getting the MVP anyways. Our Triple D award goes to Tyler Hope. All right, I got to note that the food's not here yet, so we got 10 minutes. Does anybody want to come up and say anything? Seniors, there was no Ziegler at when I needed. Nah, we'll pass it to 2. Like I mentioned before, this is one of those years that I think that we persevere. Years past, if we had to go through what we went through this year, it could have been a very well 3-7 year. The fact that this team, and I mentioned the seniors, that's not taking anything away from the juniors, sophomores, freshmen that contributed as well. Parents out there, do the parents know when we have weightlifting right now? Raise your hands if you know when our weightlifting times are. High, raise them up high. So most of the parents know when our weightlifting times are. All right, right now we're meeting Mondays, Tuesdays, 4:15 to about 5:45, and we're meeting on Thursdays at the same time. This is where I'll get on my soapbox a little bit. One thing I'll mention, I mentioned before, the league's going to be tough coming up. We drop Monterey, we pick up Blue Mountain, and we pick up Lehigh. 2 teams that are in Upswing. Lehigh, we made districts for the first time in a while. They were a young team. Blue Mountain's a AAA school, large school, who's always very competitive. For us to stay competitive, to be in the mix of things at the end of the year like we have been for the last, pretty much 5 out of the last 6 years, you're going to have to work that much harder to get there. This time of year, you don't plan on showing up in August and helping out. This is the time of year when you get better. You win games this time of year, you don't win them in August. So like I mentioned before, junior high parents, are there many junior high parents here? We have, I'm emphasizing that it'd be nice to see the 8th graders starting to work their way in. I don't push that. We have a couple young 8th graders. I know Dara's coming, Chance, Case is coming. Those guys have been coming in. I think we had another one there tonight. You know, right now is a good time for those guys to come in. We got 5 coaches in there with 25 kids, so we'll make sure that we get a coach that gets on them and make sure that they're learning how to lift properly, which is important for those 7th and 8th graders. So encourage, like I said, especially the 8th graders coming up to 9th. We don't have a freshman program, so those 9th graders are getting thrown right into the JV mix. So it's always going to help them be bigger, faster, and stronger. That being said, you know, I think that we have a lot of talent coming up, and we're looking for great years to come. What we'd like to do afterwards, Times News is here, we want to make sure award winners, everyone that got pictures, everyone got awards, we want to make sure you stay down here and get your pictures taken.
Okay. You said you have 8 minutes, whatever, so I think the whole team. The whole team.
Okay.
Each class.
We have about 8 minutes to kill. What I'd like to do first is thank all the parents for coming out tonight. I know it's not exactly the nicest weather. What's that? Okay. Yep. Like I said, I know it's not the easiest night to get out sometimes. I'd like to thank everyone for attending. And again, I'd like to thank you for the pleasure of coaching your kids. You know, it's been a pleasure. We have great kids in Tamaqua. And like I said, I enjoy it every year. And I'm sure every other coach would say that. Okay. Thank you very much.
Do the whole team first, then each class, and then the seniors. We got 8 minutes, so the whole team really fast. Take 2 seconds for a quick video. The coaches are in it too, obviously.
Thank you.
Here I go.
Yeah, we'd like to get a picture of me.
We're gonna do it not right here. We're gonna do it right over here. Right here. Okay. How many on the team?
Turn around.
Okay. We're gonna have to make the 6 rows. The first row is like this. Next row is bending. The second row is always in the back. Then make this fast, okay, anyone? First row, sit down. Do by class. Do by class. The freshmen in the front for now. So seniors in the front. Seniors in the front. Stand down. Come on. Hurry up. Make this fast. We're going to take a lot more pictures. Hurry up. Let's go. 6 rows. Front row. Seniors in the front. Seniors. Like this. Seniors in the front. Sorry. Coach is going to take you too, obviously. Next row, you're bending down. Bend down. Ready? In the front. Ready? Take a look up. As long as I can see your face, it's all that matters. If I don't see your face, I'm going to be in the photo. Everybody in the back kind of disappear. Everybody in the back disappear. Comes up.
Patty! You gotta move!
Get out of the way.
Nails! Get off the stage!
Thank you. Okay, ready? I'm ready. I'm going to take a couple pictures. It's going to be right now. As long as I see your face, it's all that matters. Yes. Okay, I can't see the guy in the back space.
I'm missing much.
Really?
I'm over 18.
Except for now. And I don't know your name on the end. Right there? Yes. come front row. There you go. Coaches,
You've been shunned.
everyone else is stitching everything tight. Find out the top of this means all you gotta do is print it out. One. Back up a little more. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1. This is good. Except for one person. It's a good picture. We should have her in the front.
Right in the middle.
How do we go like this? We'll take one, all